All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty huge. I mean, this is something that affects all of us, like, every single day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's how we figure out what's actually true, like what we should believe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with, like, so much information just constantly flying at us from all directions.
Yeah, totally. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes.
It really is. And to help us navigate this whole mess, we're diving into this book called The Art of Discerning Truth. And yeah, the title's kind of formal, but honestly, this stuff is so relevant. I mean, think about it. Like, ever checked a weather app and it's like totally wrong, like rain when it's sunny, you know?
Yeah, all the time.
Well, today we're going to kind of look at why that happens, not just with weather, but with information in general.
Right.
And more importantly, how to avoid being, well, the book calls it bamboozled.
Bamboozled. I like that word. It's like playful, but it also gets the point across, you know?
Yeah, it does. Right? So the book dives right in and asks, like, why do we trust some sources of information over others? Like, sometimes it feels like we just go with whatever's popular.
Yeah, absolutely. The book talks about this thing called the power of popularity, and it's a trap that's really easy to fall into, you know? Just because a ton of people believe something doesn't automatically make it true.
Right, right.
Think about it, like all those fads from the past that now seem totally ridiculous, like information, even if it's wrong, it can still gain momentum and just spread like wildfire, especially nowadays with, social media and everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So we can't just go with the crowd. Okay, so then how do we know what to actually trust? Because the book also talks about money and marketing, and that's kind of unsettling, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of. I mean, information is power, right? And it can be used to push agendas and, make money. Think about targeted ads. Like, they often seem to know exactly what you're thinking about. It's creepy.
Yeah, it is.
That's because resources and marketing, they can really shape the information we see. They can promote certain stories while, like, burying others. It's like that weather app saying it's going to be sunny when it's actually pouring rain. Maybe the developers had a reason to make things seem better than they were,
Oh, wow. Okay, so beyond, like, the weather app, can you give us an example of how that manipulation actually plays out in the real world?
Let's see. Well, think about the health and wellness industry. It seems like there's always a new diet or supplement or fitness trend popping up.
Right.
And a lot of them are backed by these really slick marketing campaigns. But it can be so hard to tell what's actually based on science and what's just clever marketing. You know what I mean? You really got to look beyond the fancy words and the celebrity endorsements and dig into the actual research.
So it's not enough to just passively take in information. We have to be more active.
Yeah.
Right? The book talks about doing your own research.
Wow.
Trusting your gut. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great place to start. Intuition and experience. They're definitely valuable tools for figuring out what's true. If something feels off or doesn't line up with what you already know, that's a good sign to, like, dig a little deeper.
Okay.
But of course, intuition isn't perfect. We're all prone to these things called cognitive biases. They're like these mental shortcuts our brains take that can sometimes lead us to make bad decisions.
Cognitive biases. That sounds interesting. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So one common bias is called confirmation bias, which is basically our tendency to look for information that already agrees with what we believe. So if we're already convinced about something, we might subconsciously be looking for evidence that supports that belief and ignoring stuff that goes against it. Being aware of these biases is like the first step to overcoming them.
So trusting your gut, it's more than just a feeling. It's also about having a good foundation of knowledge to work with.
Exactly. It's like building a house. You need a strong foundation to hold up everything else.
Yeah.
In terms of knowledge, that means understanding like basic logic and science and critical thinking,
Yeah.
It also means knowing how to check if a source is credible and being able to spot those common tricks people use in arguments.
That makes me think of this quote from Archimedes. The book mentions it. "Give me a firm spot on which to stand and I shall move the earth." That feels so relevant here.
Absolutely. Archimedes totally understood leverage. Finding that firm spot, that solid base of knowledge, it gives us the power to move forward with confidence and figure out the truth, even when we're bombarded with all this information.
So how do we find those reliable starting points for our own research? Like, where do we even begin to build that foundation?
Yeah. That's a great question. And honestly, it's a journey. It's about self-discovery. You can start by taking a look at what you already believe and see if you can spot any biases you might have. Then try to find different perspectives, challenge your own assumptions, look for sources that are known for being credible and transparent ones that prioritize evidence over opinion. And remember, the search for truth, It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. It's about always questioning, refining, and evolving what we understand.
So we need to be like critical thinkers, but also lifelong learners all at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay, so to recap, we've learned that just because something's popular doesn't mean it's true. Manipulation is definitely out there, and we need to be more active in how we learn and what we believe. We got to build that strong foundation of understanding and trust our gut feelings, but also be aware of those sneaky biases.
And to leave you with something to think about, what's one thing you've always believed without really questioning it? What happens when you start digging a little deeper?
That's a great question for all of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep learning.